Hi, everyone. It's so good to visit with you again today. I've been looking forward to it. Um, I had a guest plan, and then, our time zones got mixed up, and so to fill in the gap for today, I thought I would really go more into detail on the since it's springtime, and you might be thinking of garden projects that you want to do or things that you want to do in your yard that might increase your energy flow, might adjust or improve the voltage and connection with nature and the zodiac around you. And so I'm going to talk and share with you about how I made my crystal grid in the garden, and how I made the dowsing rings that I use in my house, the copper rings. And so I hope you enjoy it. I had the pictures lined up, and I thought Mercury retrograde was over, but the pictures are all gone now. So you have to bear with me in bringing up a picture at a time. And so I was going to start here, and I started about a year ago in, now I'm waiting to see. I started about a year ago in planning the crystal grid. It first came as a thought, and um, other things. Then it took a while to plan everything of how I was going to. That didn't work. So let's see. Nope, that didn't work. Sorry. It worked last night when I was putting everything up. Shoot. Um, there's one. That's not the picture I wanted to go with first, but well, that was up. So I'll just talk as I put pictures up, and then I can go through them again one at a time. How's that? So it took me a while to think of how I wanted to do it. And let's see, there's one. See if that'll go. No, that didn't go. Wonder why. I don't get it. So for some reason, I'm just not doing things right. And so, um, okay, we're going to switch gears here. So I will get rid of that one. And I think it's because I got two selection things here to select from. And shoot, I had this, that's, I'll find that later. There. I want to start from this one. Image file. No. Oh, goodness sakes. Anyway, sorry. I apologize but so, and I keep Xing out that screen, and the same one keeps coming back. So it must want, for some reason, the universe wants me to go with these instead. So anyway, I just won't show the others right now. And so I started first deciding exactly what I want to do. So I meditated on it, and a lot of crystal grids are based on the lotus flower or the tree of life plan. And I didn't want, I wanted to simplify it. And so it came to me. I was working in my meditation and my learning at the time. It's been a long process of learning for me, several years, to learn about the mindset of abundance versus the mindset of lack, and how money plays into that very much, of course. But so do relationships, and so do your health, and so do that for all our ancestors and their mindset. It's the mindset of God versus the mindset of man. Um, there's freedom, abundance, and free will, and um, all those other good love, right? That goes into the mindset of God, and the mindset then of ego or man that we often fall into, the mindset when we go into fight and flight and we're not grounded into being in connection with our spirit, then that's the mindset of fear and lack, coercion, control, manipulation. In various ways, it's not always very noticeable. It doesn't mean it's always with bad intentions, but it's the mindset that takes us out of following our spirit. And so, anyway, that's what I was deeply learning about the mindset of abundance and free will and the currency of money, right? The current of money. And so I decided I would make the grid in the infinity loop, an elongated figure eight, and both ways, north and south and east and west. I put it on the cardinal directions within the garden, and I wanted it came to me to make it cover the whole garden, and so I measured um, the practical use of the garden from edge to edge, east to west, and mark that. And same way, north to south, and I mark that. And it was if the universe is saying, this is meant to be, because it was in the very center of my passion flower arbor, which is very dear to my heart. My husband made it for me, but I just love the passion flower. I love the tea. I love the intricate, unique, wild flowers that it has, and I love its energy, that the passion of Christ or the mindset of Christ, which is what I wanted, the mindset of God. And so this is the basis of my crystal grid, the center of the passion flower arbor. And so I decided to make it then the abundance loop, and I knew that I had done electroculture in my garden the year or two before and hadn't noticed a big help with it, but it could have been how I did it. But I knew that if I used a lot of copper in my crystal grid, then it would also enhance the electroculture poles and copper wire that I used in the rest of the garden. And I knew it was for protection, also protection from EMFs around, but I think it was spiritual protection in different ways also, uh, related to the mindset of God, right? And so I'll go with these. So first I dug the holes, and then I'm going to try this one more time here. How come that doesn't X out? There we go. See if I can do it this way. I'll try one more time here, see if I can get the one. No, it's just not wanting to go with that. I don't know. It's just I closed it out and everything, and it's still coming back the same screen. So regardless, I dug the holes. They're not very deep. I decided I wanted to bury the crystals in the ground instead of place on top, because I wanted to make it easy for my husband to mow over. And the I also very much wanted a visible reminder, so that every time I walk through my garden and the herb garden and to the passion flower vine, that I would see a visual reminder of all the power and vibrations of the crystal that is there, and my heart's desires for bringing this. And so, anyway, I dug the holes about a shovel full deep, so about like 8 inches deep and maybe an 8 inch around. It was real easy digging at the time of year I was doing it. It was like in the end of June or something, after we'd had nice rains in the spring, and it hadn't got hot enough to bake the earth again yet. And so I dug the holes, and then I put a couple shovelfuls of sand in them as drainage. And then I had planned for on this grid where I was going to place the crystals. And so beside the center point, of course, I put crystals for heart energy in the center, and then each end of east and north, south, east, and west. And then I also put at the I should have had a diagram. So here's a petal, right? One half of the eight. So I have one in the center and have one at the edge. And then at the widest parts, I put it on two. So on each petal, I had then three holes where I put the crystals. So it went 3, 6, 9. So I had 12 holes and one in the center. So 13, right? For 13 moons out of the year in 7 out of 19 moon cycles. And 13 as 1 and 3, the wealth, abundance number, and also the 8, the shape of the 8 for the infinity. And I had originally planned to do it the length, the whole covering the length and width of the garden, but I found out I couldn't do that because the sidewalk was in the way. And so then I had to shorten it so to a place where I could make all the holes in every direction, and it ended up being almost exactly 33 feet. So from one edge of 1/8 to the furthest end of that 8 was 33 feet. And so another numerology, magic numerology that was all tied into this. And the shapes, of course, the 8 is part of the spiral shapes. And I didn't use all just crystals just for abundance. I used them according to my husband and my's zodiac signs, both the sun sign and the moon signs, the crystals that were said to be good for that. And to some extent, it was very easy because both my husband and I are Aquarians. We have different moon signs, but so I used a lot of the crystals, then worked for both of us at the same time. And then I also added extra crystals that were just very favorites of mine, or some obsidian, or um, um, others that were just for more protection from EMFs, others that were just for more peace and calm. And so there's quite a collection of those. I got the information from a book that was for crystals for your zodiac by Judy Hall, I believe is her name, a well-known crystal expert. And so anyway, I dug the holes, and at the 33 feet lengths of each of the abundance or infinity links here. I'm probably using my hands too much. And so I had the shovels. I made the holes, put a couple of scoops of sand in each one, and then placed the crystals in each one according to how I planned out how to do that. And then I had ready-made concrete. And so that's nothing much. See, I had pictures of that, right? So I just had a garden tub. Actually, we do a lot of gardening in mineral tubs that carry the minerals that farmers use for their cattle, because we live in a rural area and a lot of the farmers around had these in abundance. And so we use those a lot in our garden. And so I mixed the concrete. I just put a bag of Quickcrete in at a time, and poured some water in there and stirred it up until it looked about right, and scooped that into each hole then to cover the crystals gently and make it up to the level with the top of the ground. And then I put a placeholder in for my I was going to put in wooden holes in the center wrapped with copper, so it ties in the electroculture. um, but I put a placeholder in each one, which was a length of old copper plumbing pipe that we had around. So I stuck that in the center of each, and I drew an infinity on each one. And I don't know if you could see this or not either. And so there, you can kind of see in this one, this is the center. In the center of the two infinity figure eights, which is in the center of my passion flower grid, I placed a 10-foot copper pole. It's two 5-foot links joined with a piece of copper in the middle that holds them together. And I think I glued that to maybe. Anyway, it was real snug. Didn't need to. I just got those at Menards, one of the big box hardware stores. And It wasn't too expensive. I think each of the 5-foot poles were maybe around $10, something like that. And so it wasn't bad. And then you can see maybe in that hole, the where I placed the pipe, I drew the infinity, and I did that for each of the 13 holes, as the visual reminder, and also more of the sacred numerology and the sacred spiral part that's in there. And then this one, let's see, there. I was going to try to put that up. I don't know how that. Now I want to. Oh, add. There we go. Oh, that was the same one I had before. So, oh, how funny. And so, anyway, then I'll just remove one of them. And so I'll go in and now, how did it do that? And then there, there we go. And so I'll share another picture if I can find one. Then in the, that's in the base, outline poles. Then in the outline poles, you can see I drew the infinity loops there. And then this is a wooden, like a bamboo um, gardening pole. No, it was a dowel. That's what I ended up using, just a dowel stick that I brushed on um, a natural finish. I'm trying to tongue oil of some kind that I got in the store. I can't remember what kind it was, but it's a natural product, so it's going to protect the wood from the weather but not hurt the ground, right? And so then I wrapped it in copper wire, and I used the same copper wire that I'd used for the electroculture. I had gone with a 16 gauge, just because it was easy to handle, it was easy to use, and it was kind of the mid-range of the expenses for the cost per amount per roll that I got, and so it could do the job, but I wrapped the spiral around each one rather loosely, so it might convey the copper better if I had wrapped it a lot more tight. Uh, Made the, what do you call it, the wraps closer together. But I made a rather loose spiral um, and several wraps around the pole, and then made a little curly Q at the top. At the time I did it, I was going to add a crystal to the top of each one, and I still might at some time. Um, but so that's the outline poles at each of the edges of the infinity loops, as well as the midpoints then of each petal of the 8. And then I'll show you what I did for the top of the crystal grid. And I showed you the pole, and this one shows, this picture shows, I don't know if you can see it real easy. This is where I put the two 5-foot links together. And so it's just a little piece of copper um, that links them together. And then one more picture here. I was going to show you what I did to the top of the grid at the very top of the pole is a crystal. It was about an inch and a half maybe in length, and so it's at the top of the crystal grid. And you can see there, I did not wrap the entire copper pole with wire. This is just wrapped at the top to secure the crystal on. And one more here. The I did that one. Here's the finished product. If you can see from a distance, this is a close-up of the passion flower. you can see I have small raised beds on either side. I usually grow herbs in those, or I grow quite a number of medicinal plants and weeds and flowers that are medicinals. And so I usually use those. And then my herb bed that's planted in the ground is just to the left hand side of my passion flower vine. So this is kind of like my area of the garden. And then my husband goes a lot bigger on the melons, watermelon and cantaloupes, melons of different kinds, tomatoes and peppers. We also planted a bunch of 100 strawberry plants this year. We used to have a great big strawberry bed, but we've moved lots of times since then and hadn't really got one started. And so we were excited to get our strawberry bed started again. But anyway, this is how the passion vine grows. I started out with just two plants because they were about $10 a piece or something. They were rather expensive at the time. And then so they're planted on either side, and then later I was able to find some plants that were similar or the same variety of the passion flower that I use. So, and then it still didn't cover the whole length of the arbor, which is an 8-foot length. But through the 2 or 3 years since I've had it, then at the beginning of each spring, when the vines start to grow, I take one vine down and spread it out along the ground, the length of the toward the length of the arbor, and then cover it with soil in places, and it forms roots and grows. And then the next year, I have a plant in those. So last year it was full for the first time, and passion flower can be a little invasive. I have it coming up in the raised beds a little bit or on the ground a little bit. I either dig them up or leave them because I enjoy it, or I give them to friends, or I've even mailed them before. I mailed one to Long Island, New York, to a friend, April Alexander, who has been on 2 or 3 of my podcasts talking about herbs and trees and medicinals. And so it's growing in Long Island now. And you can see then the copper pole from the bottom right there all the way up to the top at the 10-foot part. And I leave the copper in, the copper pole and the wooden poles with the copper in. Left them there all winter, and they did pretty well. One of the dowel sticks broke when I was walking the dog. The dog kind of suddenly darted around to the other side, and the chain went across, or the leash, I mean, went across where um, she went on one side of the pole and I went on the other, and so the leash pulled the pole down and broke it. And anyway, but I had designed the outlying one so that the poles could be pulled up and could be mowed around. Um, it didn't work out quite as good as I had hoped, because when I had put the old copper plumbing in, the um, placeholder to hold the hole open in the center when I put the concrete in, so that there would be a hole to stick the wooden dowel in each one. The it the last time I checked it, the day I poured this around, I was done by noon pouring these, and everything was good. It was curing just fine, and I could pull out that copper pipe and everything was good. And that night it rained, and the concrete hadn't been cured enough all the way down, and it kind of secured those little copper pipes in place. And anyway, so if I worked at each one, we could eventually get them out. But my husband had just decided he would mow around it instead of going to the trouble of taking them out anyway, each time he mowed. So, anyway, that's my crystal grid, and I'm just really happy with it. And I thought maybe you guys would enjoy learning more about how I did that, so that you would maybe you want to do something similar in your own garden. You wouldn't have to do an infinity loop. You could do any type of crystal grid that you'd like. And you wouldn't have to do it near as big as I did. You could a lot of people leave them just get the a sample, paper copper grid. You can get that at, copper stores, or you can get a wooden one. You can order them online, and so that your copper grid is only about this big, and then place a crystal on each of the intersections of the lines on the grid. So however you do it, I encourage you to do something like that. And I I can't guarantee that I would be able to ship a passion flower to each anyone who wanted it, because it might not grow where you're living. It might not be in your grow zone. I'm kind of the furthest north for this variety. There might be other varieties that grow better where you're located, but I'm at the like I'm in a zone 5B, I think 5 or 5B. Anyway, and it's the top, the coldest that this variety will grow. And anyway, but if you live in one of 5B or below and you would like one, I can't guarantee I would have enough copies, enough pieces to mail you. But if you would um, like a piece of passion flower from me to be in your garden, and um, I'll see what I can do as far as arranging that. I would might just ask you to pay shipping, which wouldn't be very much. A small standard box, a $10 box or something. But anyway, I don't know. So anyone interested, you can just contact me. So now I wanted to go into um, how I did the copper rings. I learned dowsing a few years ago from Marie Diamond. She had um, a webinar online that I had listened to, and then I ordered her kit and the dowsing rods and things that she used. And I've learned more since then from Raymond Grace. And I encourage you to check out Raymond's work and all his much information he gives, and his classes that you can um, attend, or he has one online now that you can um, rent for whatever his length of time is, so that you can learn it during that time. Anyway, so I wanted to show you the copper grids. I was hoping I have another um, file here. I'll have to, let's see, this will be easier to find. I'm sorry again. I'm kind of, um, there we go. Okay, so here's the here's one of the copper grids I made. This is the electric panel, and that's where I put them in my house. I have two electric panels. One is very old, but still hooks up some of the house, and then this is the newer box. And forgive the torn wallpaper around. I'm in the process of tearing off the wallpaper in that room, and then I'm going to be painting it. This is the in our back hallway that goes outdoor to our back door. But um, there's a you can also place copper rings where your electric hookup is to your house. So it comes to one side of your house, and then here's the wall of your house then, and then you place the copper ring opposite on the inside of your house. And so I did that too. And I'm very sensitive to EMFs and to feeling energies. And it was amazing. Just immediately, I could tell the energy shift once I placed one in, put it in place. It was just amazing. And so you can see this is just I can't remember. Um, I'll put down later the size of copper that I use, but it's like called dead, dead something, right? Dead copper, so that you can mold it. Otherwise, copper is very hard, so and hard to um, adjust to how you want it. So this was like dead copper, and anyway, then there's little let's see, I put it here. There's little pieces of copper. It's a little tubes. Probably a smaller one might even work better. But that's what's placed on all these edges around. I put six in each one for good numerology. And so what I did, of course, the copper all comes in a big length of it. Here I had, this is what's left of mine, and this copper is kind of hollow in the middle. And so when I went to cut it to the length I needed, I didn't use wire cutters. I used a little Dremel tool to cut it clean. And then I made I cut it to the length I did because I measured my electric panel. You want to cover all the, it doesn't have to cover all these outlying edges, but it needs to cover all where your switches are, your electric switches. And you can put this on your electric panel, like if you have well water or something, you can put it on that too, on that electric panel, or control panel, I guess you'd call it, or your backup. Uh, you say your backup energy that runs your generator. So if you have a generator for when your electricity goes off, you can put that on there too. But anyway, so I kind of got a line so I knew what diameter I needed. And then I pulled up online, I just found a converter that converted diameter to circumference. And then I had my inches that I needed. And I then also then you, from your diameter, you'd find your radius, which would be half the circle. And so using the radius, then I put together a cardboard, or I used a rubber mat on the floor and found the center and um, drew the circle around from the a length of the radius. And so you have a circle the size that you need it, and I mark that in a bright colors. And then I use the um, copper, and I would unroll it here, and the length that I needed first, and then I would kind of shape it generally in the size I wanted it. You can kind of see it just stays in place where you want it. But then I taped it down as I went. I just used like the blue painter's tape to secure it to the cardboard or the mat on the line in the shape of the circle that I needed. And so I did that. And when I got all the way around, then I used the little Dremel tool and cut off the second end, right? Or you could measure the whole circumference if you wanted to do that and cut it off that way. And so then you have a length of wire then taped down to your cardboard where you had marked with a marker the circumference that you needed, the circle, right, that you needed. And so anyway, so there's my thing. And then I slipped these six of these little copper rings on and adjusted them um, uh, spread evenly around the circle, as you can kind of see there on the picture. And then use the painter's tape to tape everything in place and hold it. And then what I did were each of the little the copper tubes were placed on the ring. Then, first of all, it was a little bit of a process, but first of all, to convey all the electricity then through the copper, all the energy through the copper, I use what's called wire glue. And it just comes in a little thing like this. It's not very expensive. And so I attached these little copper tubes to the wire using the wire glue, and I taped them in place. Or some things I use little clamps to be sure that it held things in place as I needed, so that it was, the wire's a lot smaller, than the tube. And so I just attached it on one side of the tube. So I had to hold it in place in that wire glue until it dried. And then the next day when the wire glue was dry, then I took super glue gel, and spread it all around within the tube there wherever the wire touched. And so that it covered that weld with the wire glue so that it would keep everything attached so that the energy would flow through all of it. And then after everything dried, oh, and I also used that wire glue with the ends of the circle where they went together inside the top. You can see. I was pointing with my finger. I don't know if you can see the cursor, but the very top of the copper tubes there at the top of the electrical panel that has the where the two ends meet, and I used the wire glue for that too, and followed by the super glue the next day. And then some of the wire glue or super glue showed a little, and so then I found myself a little bottle of copper paint and painted over it just so that it wouldn't show. And you had to I had to be careful with because, well, one thing, the copper mold changes easily. So to keep it in the shape I needed, you have to be careful. And it kind of looks almost like my circle's a little crooked. I probably bumped it out there several times. And I'll go back and straighten it a little bit so that it is retains its round shape as I go. And so this was an easy way to do a DIY project. You can buy the copper dowsing rings online from many places. And um, so feel free to do that unless you want to try a creative project yourself. And let's see, so I use those also where the electric service line attaches to the house, where that was. And one other thing I'll throw in for EMF protection in your house, if you have a internet router in your house, there's EMFs that come off of it also. And so you can either place, the black obsidian crystal is very good EMF absorber. And so you can either, if your router lies flat, you can get a large crystal and place it on top of the router. Or you can place um, the crystal in front of where the router is as if it needs to stand. And so anyway, that's my crystal grid in the garden and my dowsing rings in the house. And then the obsidian, some things that I do a lot for protection for EMFs. And so that's all I wanted to talk to you about. Thank you so much for joining me. And if you enjoyed this or just want to support me, then please like and subscribe so that other people can find it eventually too at some point. And if you have any questions on how I did it, drop a line in the comments, and I'd be glad to answer some of that. Or you can contact me through my website if you'd like to. That link's below, and use the contact form to ask me a question. Or anyway, so I wish you a very happy spring, a happy gardening season if you do gardening. If you don't, I suggest maybe you start and have at least a pot of flowers if you can, and if or a tomato plant, or even if your flowers are indoors, then do something with plants to bring nature inside. And that's my wish for all of you, to have a happy spring and a happy life. So I'll talk to you later. Bye bye.